how powerful a miracle can be. The Blackfoot River in western Montana is known for its superb whitewater rafting. On Memorial Day weekend, 1986, Terry Perigo and her 9-year-old daughter Shelley joined her friend Steve Combs and his children, Thomas and Iceland, for a weekend adventure.
Yes, we are.
While Steve and his children had experienced the thrill of river rafting before, Terry was apprehensive.
I just had a premonition that this wasn't a good idea. The river was really high, it was really fast, and I just didn't have a good feeling about taking the little kids.
But the day was warm and sunny. All the kids were in life jackets, and Terry soon put her fear behind her.
It was a beautiful day, and we were just enjoying the day with our kids.
Don't forget to scream.
But suddenly, the group found themselves approaching a series of dangerous rapids. Steve was sitting on the rear of the raft, desperately trying to maneuver it through the rocks with a paddle.
And there was a rock jutting out of the water, about 4 or 5 feet out of the water. And there was a dip. And as we went over the dip, it threw me off balance a little bit.
Steve was thrown violently into the raging waters, his foot tangled in the raft. The force of his fall, along with the fury of the current, was enough to flip the raft, pitching Terry and the 3 children into the freezing waters.
I popped up and I was so cold that I couldn't breathe. I could not catch my breath at all. I looked around and all I could see were Steve and Iceland, his daughter, who had popped up right next to me.
Steve grabbed his daughter and began to heave her toward the riverbank to safety.
I don't know how I did this because there was no place to stand, but I was able to throw her about 10 feet or so. Then we were close enough to the shore where I got a footing and pulled her over.
Steve and his daughter were now safely on shore.
I just collapsed, and my daughter was there and just held on to me. I was absolutely hysterical because I knew down deep I'd never see my son alive again.
Terry struggled against the current, frantically searching for the children, who did not know how to swim well.
The children were nowhere to be found. I couldn't see them. And I remember thinking the kids were drowned. I remember looking around, and I remember thinking that I would not get out of that river, that I would rather die than get out of that river without my daughter.
As the raging river pulled Terry downstream, she fought to gain some control. But the currents were too powerful. How was she going to save the children? Her only hope was to reach the raft, which was quickly racing away.
All of a sudden, I saw our overturned raft. It was a long way down the river.
The rapids carried the raft farther and farther away from Terry.
I just knew I had to get to that raft. And as soon as I had that feeling, I was there.
Suddenly, a mysterious force lifted Terry, and she found herself right next to the overturned raft.
I don't remember getting there. I didn't swim there. There would have been no way I could have caught up with that raft. It was like something picked me up out of the water and moved me and put me down right by that raft.
As this mysterious force placed Terry at the raft, her terror continued as she searched for the drowning children. Where were they? And would they survive this tragic nightmare? Now her only hope for survival, and the only way she could continue to search for the missing children, was to turn over the raft and get inside. But unable to touch bottom and with no leverage, how could she possibly turn it over? Suddenly, the same mysterious force that had carried her to the raft came to the rescue again. The raft lifted in her hand.
It was easy. I didn't even think about it. It just was like a feather.
As she miraculously lifted the raft, to her amazement, she found the children trapped underneath. But the threat to Terry and these two young children was far from over.
We were going right into the big rapids, and I was really scared. I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't have enough strength to get us across the river. It was taking us down the river instead.
The river was now a torrent of white water funneling through a canyon of sheer cliff walls. Even if Terry and the two kids could manage to navigate the raft to the water's edge, there was no place to land. And then, Terry spotted a tiny beach wedged in the rocks of the cliff. But with the speed of the currents, there seemed to be no way she could get to it in time.
And I remember thinking this was our only chance. And as I thought that, even though we were past it, something just moved us there.
That something, that mysterious force, had come to her aid once again. Just as suddenly as it had begun, the harrowing ordeal was over. Terry and the kids instantly found themselves safely beached on a spit of ground that had moments earlier been over 25 feet away.
I didn't feel us being moved. It wasn't like you pick up a dish and take it from one point to the other. We just were there.
Moments later, Steve and his daughter arrived with another rafting crew.
I have the kids. We're okay.
When Terry hollered at me and told me everything was fine, it was just like an instantaneous relief, and I absolutely collapsed.
And soon, they would all be reunited.
I was so overwhelmed by what had happened, and we were exhausted, but I knew something miraculous had happened.
No one can explain the series of events that happened that day. First, the mysterious hand lifting Terry and placing her next to the overturned raft. The unexplainable strength that Terry found in her time of crisis. And finally, the mysterious force that guided them to safety on an inaccessible beach. Terry still remembers the overwhelming feeling that something miraculous had happened. Something that after 12 years, she continues to try to understand.
I've always thought that my grandmother acted as my guardian angel that day. My maternal grandmother reached her hand down from heaven and picked me up and took me to those kids. I may have been in that river, but I did not save those kids. Physically, I guess I did it, but I had a power other than me who was giving me the power to do it.